last video I made this hoop skirt and I was not completely satisfied with the shape, and that's why I am making a new one. I hope to end up with something that is a little more round, a little bigger in size. So I already did some math. So I thought I'm taking something that is like boning but very small, and I'm going to use my magical number from the last video, which I used then to scale up my little pattern into my size. And I'm going to find out how big the boning would be in scale, and then I hopefully can figure out my pattern like that. So basically we're starting out with a cage hoop skirt first, a tiny hoop skirt, and then I'm going to make my pattern out of that. That's the theory. Let's see if that makes any sense if I'm actually doing it. I'm not sure if I'm going into any detail of sewing again. If you want to see more of that, you can watch the video of my other hoop skirt. By the way, my name is Melly. This is my channel where it's all about sewing, art and other crafts. And this is my wicked gown, ball gown fantasy project. So the number that I used to scale up my small pattern last time was 5.67. So if I divide my large circumference of hoop material, the hoop itself. So if I take my 1.5 meters of the hoop I want to end up with, divide it with 5.67 or divide it through 5.67, and I will end up with something that I need a calculator for. So here we are. This doesn't want to be a hoop. Well, it's not round. So that thin material didn't work so well for the first hoop. It's just too small and it doesn't want to be round. But I remember that I had this boning that you can sew, and it's much more willing to stay like that. Maybe I even sew over it, but I just need to measure it first, and I will use that now. Maybe trying tape first, and if that doesn't work, we need to sew it down. So that's a nice hoop. Is it fitting around her waist? Because that was probably my main error the last time, that I made the first hoop too narrow, so everything became more like this, and I wanted to be like more like this. That's a very precise description, right? The next one. And yes, I could have just bought a pattern, but that's really something, a little goal that I set myself this year, that I would use less pattern and try to figure out these myself. I have more plans about this, so I want to work with a sloper pattern, which is basically a base pattern that you do make for yourself, where I can then create a lot of patterns from. That would be something I want to do this year, but also half of the year is already gone. So that's a little smaller than what I want, but I can still use it. So that's another hoop. I have planned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 German mode. I have planned 5 channels this time. So that would be like this. Maybe I find out that it's too much, I don't know yet. Last time I had 4, so that's one more. Maybe I can narrow it down to 4 again. Let's see, but I try to make them slightly bigger and bigger and bigger. That's the theme of this video, I think. Trying to use that again, because that's, when it's larger it is round, but if it's smaller it doesn't want to be like that. And I really was thinking about it, making another one or using the one that I have. I realized I make something like that maybe every other year, a big fancy thing. So I want to make it nice. And then don't want to look at it and just ask myself, why haven't I not made this bigger? And that seems already quite large. So here's my boning for that tiny hoop skirt for this one. So now she's getting a tiny waistband first. So we have something to pin into. And then, don't laugh at me, but I'm using zigzag ribbon because I have so much of this. That's what I'm going to use now. So that will be absolutely guaranteed that I will stab myself in a few seconds. So now I want this to stay like this. Oh, I hope I cannot pin the stuff. Maybe I will just make some knots. That will work. I will make so just tie some knots and then my hoop will fall apart. Why is it not working? I will sew this stuff. I attached the first little hoop and it was a nightmare. But I will keep pushing through and hopefully I'll be back in a sec for you with a little hoop skirt thing. So we have something. And it is kind of a mess. You can see it came out crooked, of course. I think I need to use other ribbons, make sure to mark them on the ribbons and then sew it exactly to the same area, because of course like this it came out super crooked. And I couldn't add the last one to it because the ribbons were not long enough. I will find something else and then I'm coming back to you with something nicer, hopefully. So I finished this and I think this won't solve my problem. I think we cannot work with this. I cannot get it to hang straight and I think there are already some issues with the sizes. For example, the top two hoops, they are too small and then it goes like and then like that. So I need to make them wider, or I think at least the one in the middle should be wider. Maybe if I take this off, which doesn't work. Anyway, I think I will go back straight to drawing a pattern, a big pattern, maybe making a mock-up. But that will not work. We have to find another solution, get a pattern. So after thinking a little more about my experience with this thing, when I was lying awake late at night thinking about my pattern, as you do, I realized the thing that I was looking for could be a circus skirt. Maybe not a full thing, but maybe a 3/4 or a half circus skirt. And I decided to give it a try. I made myself some negative templates for a half circus skirt and a 3/4. And I think I'm going to try that in paper. I also realized I need to start with a bigger hoop first, because I was always starting to narrow, and I took one of these hoops out and pulled it up, and the shape is still very crooked, but it's more what I want. I need to start out bigger already and then make the hoops taller to the floor. But I think a circle skirt could be a nice base for that. Starting with the half circle. This is basically the negative pattern and this goes like this. So I just had to draw my length of the skirt to this pattern and then it will cut like this. And no, this is not my actual fabric scissors. It is an old fabric scissors because I know that's paper. Oh my god. So that's 1/2 pattern. And that's already quite large and you cannot see anything. So that's 1/2 of a half circle. A little shorter than I would make it in the final piece. And it's much wider already than my original pattern. I will measure now the hem and then I will calculate how long it would be if I make it my final length. And I think we might get some answers then. Just want to compare it to my finished hoop skirt. So it goes already a little wider to the back than this one. I think I'm on a good way. I will also draw my quarter pattern piece, which is then 3 pieces for one skirt, and then I will decide what to do, because I want to start this and I want to move on, because I feel like I'm in hoop skirt hell for a few weeks now and that's fine, it's enough. Let's figure out this pattern finally. So that's basically one length of my tape measure, a little more than 1,50 meters. So it gives me 3 meters, which is actually almost what I wanted for my sketch. So it's 50 centimeter. So if I go for 90, okay, that's a lot. That's almost 4 meters of hem, almost already with the half circle skirt. So I might even take something out, but I think I can then just go with a half circle skirt, which is nice. But I think I will adjust the pattern a little so I have smaller pieces so I can use up my fabric better. So I'm taking out a little from the side piece without interfering with the waist measurement. So I'm making the circumference a little smaller, but without changing something on my waist measurement. And then I hopefully, at least that's what I calculated, will land exactly on my 3.5 meter hem circumference. So that's around 70. It should be wide enough. Maybe we cut it in one piece, have less seams because the stuff is fraying like crazy, and then call it a day. I have still quite a little bit of it left, but let's just first overthink it for a minute. Let's just cut the stuff, right? Life's too short for overthinking. I hope the channels are not too curved on this thing. That's one thing I have to keep in mind. Because that steel stuff is of course not very bendy. You can bend it like this, but you cannot really bend it, you know, like this. Oh my god, I'm overthinking again. I just don't want to ruin my material. That's why I'm thinking a lot. We will just find out if we try it. Have to check how wide that would be. So then cut stuff, but it will be a little longer like that. Not sure if my table is big enough for this. Will I just cut it in half for easier placement? But then I need 4. That's much easier to handle. But still need to lengthen it and seam allowance. So I don't know if that video actually will make any sense. I'm basically just rambling on this video and just talking my thoughts into the void. We will see if that video will make any sense in the end. I'm not sure about that. But it's also meant just as an update for the other video of my hoop skirt making journey. So hopefully we will soon be past this and having to deal with my other stuff. Because I have so much sparkly stuff already. So anyway, let's cut this. So I finished all the seams except for the one that is open, and now I'm adding boning channels. I'm having nicer tape this time, like drill tape, so I don't have any seam allowances inside, or I can get stuck with my boning again. After that I can close the side seam, add the waistband and add the steel, and then we are done again. Like last time, I'm still a little excited for the final shape. So from what I measured, I should end up with 1 meter more in circumference on the lower bone. So altogether everything is supposed to be a little bigger, a little bit rounder. Let's see. Enough talking, let's just do something. So I finished my boning channels. Here it is. Very pretty black and black. Last time we had the black and white look, now we have the black and black. Looks also very cool. So I'm finishing now the side seam, and after that it's waistband time and then hardware time again. Waistband is finished or is prepared. Put in some interfacing again. my waistband is on. I made a green one. And now it's time to cut this stuff again. And then it's done. Again. No, it's not done. I have to close the channels then. Anyway, let's just cut the stuff. Ah, my tool. I don't want to hurt myself again. I saw someone just using the tape. And maybe I will do that too. Because these are not that sharp. And I'm annoyed by, because I cannot cut the little corners that I want to. Caps will not stay on. I will just wrap it in my tape again. I think that will just work just fine. So that's number 2. That's the first one, which is actually the second one, and that looks much larger. So I will continue with this, and I think I will show you the final thing then. So here's my second version of my hoop skirt compared to my old one, which means I can finally work on the outer layer of my gown. I'll keep you posted about that. Until then, see you!